Morning again, Minister.
Hello.
Minister, Sheikh Abu Hamza, also known as Samir Mutadi, is the leader of an organisation called My Care. Mr Hattadi is on the record of saying some very ugly things that I'm not going to repeat here regarding the Jewish Australian community. These have been well reported, Channel 9, The Australian. He's also on the record promoting things that are completely unacceptable regarding the treatment of women, which I hope you're across. Minister, is this acceptable, and is his organisation who promotes these views in receipt of any support this financial year or any other financial years from your government?
Thank you for that question. And of course, the government will always stand for respect in our community, and that includes our community leaders. That goes without saying that we expect that even if people have different views, that they communicate them and they articulate them in a way that respects others and also is mindful of the legislative framework in place in Victoria. We do deliver in the portfolio a significant number of grants. We have a very large festival and events grant stream and an equally significant infrastructure program. So 260 multicultural and multi-faith communities have received funding so far. Any organisation that receives grants is required to, their application must be in line with the funding grant guidelines associated with that particular grant stream. And there is robust grant assessment processes that are in place.
So has My Centre or AMF received any funding in past financial years, or are they this financial year? And if you don't have those details, can we get some details on notice, please?
Well, I'd be happy to take that aspect of your question on notice and check with my department as to whether that particular organisation has received funding. But what I want to be very clear about is that we expect all our organisations that receive grants through the Multicultural Affairs portfolio to acquit their responsibilities in accordance with the agreement they have with the department. And we also expect any organisation that receives grants to spend it appropriately in accordance with the guidelines of that particular grant.
These organisations that Mr Hattadi is associated with, AMF or My Centre, will you review this funding?
I've agreed to take on notice. I don't have the detailed information in front of me today, Ms Benham, about exactly the names of each organisation that's received funding. We do fund a large number each year, but I'm very happy to take that on notice and follow up with the committee.
Could you rule out any funding or rule out funding being provided to organisations that have engaged in conduct that would be in breach of anti-vilification provisions?
Well, everybody in Victoria has a responsibility to comply with the law, and community organisations are no different to that. One measure that the government has taken around strengthening social cohesion is I announced with the Premier a few months ago that we would be introducing a social cohesion pledge that would form part of the grant application process.
Right, thank you.
And this is...
I'm just going to move on to the next question, given in the interest of time. In November 2022, Labor MPs, the Honourable Enver Erdogan, Ewan Walters and Kathleen Matthews-Ward, announced AMF in partnership with My Centre Support Services would receive $250,000. Can you confirm if this funding has been remitted, and could the outcome report please be made available?
As I've already indicated, I'm going to... I've taken on notice already your question around direct funding allocation to that particular organisation, and I will provide that back to the committee in accordance with PAYAC's requirements. But again, as I was in the process of saying, we have asked George Lakakis AO to review our multicultural institutions and frameworks. That's in recognition of the fact that the last 20 months or so have been a particularly difficult time for the community, and there's been a lot of conflict overseas that's had an impact on the Victorian community. So when the Premier and I announced that one of our measures that we'd be taking would be to introduce this social cohesion pledge as part of all our grant applications in the Multicultural Affairs portfolio, I also asked George Lakakis to consult with key community stakeholders as part of the broader review that he's doing.
Are you concerned that the association between Mr Hattadi, his comments that have been well publicised, are in breach of anti-vilification laws? You've clearly done a bit of work in this area. Are you...
Well, what I would say is that our government takes these issues extremely seriously. It's why we introduced that legislation into the Parliament. It's why we made the commitment to the whole Victorian community that we would strengthen our anti-vilification laws so that hate speech is abundantly clear, not just in our public comments as leaders, but in the legislative framework, that it's not appropriate, that there's no place in Victoria for division and hate speech. And, you know,
this is someone who uses some really ugly language, and he has regular ministerial visits. So will the government be reviewing funding for my centre and associated organisations in the future?
I've already taken that aspect of your question on notice.
A guarantee that taxpayers will not be funding someone with well-publicised hateful views.
What I have been in the process of explaining to the committee is the strengthening of these requirements that our government and me as Minister has taken to make sure that anybody, any organisation in receipt of government funding is appropriately not only aware of what the law is, but is their application acquits each of the requirements of that particular grant stream, and that they are also complying with what we will be introducing very soon in the form of a pledge around social cohesion.
Surely a breach of anti-vilification laws is a breach and doesn't meet compliance with funding streams.
I think we're in heated agreement about the issue, Ms Benham, and that is that there is no place in Victoria for anyone engaging in that kind of hate speech. That's why our government has been particularly strong on this, including changing the law.
He said that rape and beating in the household was okay.
Thank you, Ms Benham. We're going to go to Mr Hilakari.